The Ditch Witch JT20 has been our #1 selling model for 10 years in a row. This video is going to give you a little bit of history about Ditch Witch's 20,000 pound class directional drill, why drillers like you love the JT20, and 4 things you'll want to know before you buy one. Let's dig in. Hi, I'm Owen, Marketing Manager of MTI Equipment. Thousands of horizontal directional drills have passed through the doors of our shop, and so we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of almost every horizontal directional drill on the market today.
So there's tons of knowledge stuck in brains behind desks
and next to toolboxes in the shop. And so this video series is dedicated to unlocking that knowledge and sharing it with you, so you can make the most informed decision possible when shopping for your next directional drill. If that's something you're into, please like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what drill you want us to cover next. You probably already realized this, but for those of you who don't, this is the Ditch Witch JT20. Ditch Witch is one of the 2 premier brands of directional drills made in the United States. Directional drills are classified by the amount of thrust and pullback power that they have. So the 20 in JT20 stands for 20,000 pounds of pullback power. What about the JT? The JT stands for Jet Track, which is the original machine on which the whole line of directional drills is based. The JT20 has a 74 horsepower Deutz diesel engine, giving it more than enough power to drill in various soil conditions. It has a 35 GPM FMC bean pump. You'll notice it has rubber tracks, which makes it less likely to disturb the ground conditions. You'll notice it has open top vices, which make it easy to see the pipe makeup joint. In the front, you'll see that JT20 has heavy duty stake downs. For the pipe box, it carries 400 feet of pipe for those long shots. Under here, you'll notice that it has a dual-sided rack as opposed to a single-sided rack. And in the back, you'll see it has dual stabilizer feet so that the JT20 can be easily leveled on uneven ground. And while I could list off all 18 features for the sake of brevity of this video, I'm just going to list them off here and let you read them. So I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to the real experts as to why customers love the JT20. Let's head inside and see what they had to say. So now I'm here with Shawn Hendricks, one of the original owners of MTI Equipment. Shawn started in the HDD industry in 1998. In 2012, they sold MTI Equipment to Ditch Witch, but then in 2019, they had the opportunity to buy it back. Shawn was also part of a company called PowerFlow, who built recyclers, who sold to Vermeer in 2008. Shawn has directed the repair of and made sales of thousands of horizontal directional drills at this point. And so his experience has let him gain valuable insights into the longevity of equipment and also HDD business strategy. So Shawn, the JT20 has been our top selling model for 10 years in a row. Why has the JT20 been so successful in the market?
Well, I think it comes down to first that we have a lot of them. We've had 2020s and JT20s in stock. We've always focused on buying them. That's just the class that most guys want. If they're going to have a drill or multiple drills for the fiber work, they're going to have at least a 20,000 pound drill or multiple 20,000 pound drills. So you get a lot of machine on one trailer pulled by one truck. And so we know that, so we focus on that. And then the 2020, they were just known to be powerful drills. I mean, we had guys going 700 foot with them, and they just, if anything, had too much horsepower, but boy, they could do some work. They had some electronic issues, they had some frame issues, but over the time, they've just seen so many improvements happen. And so as those improvements have happened, we've noticed them, we've gotten more efficient at working them, and so we understand those drills, we're able to sell them to customers, help keep them safe by the things that we fix, things that we stay away from when we buy them. We don't buy rigs with certain issues on them. So I think for all of those reasons, the 20,000 pound class from Ditch Witch has always been, well, it's been our #1 seller for a long, long time.
It has, thank you. So you said the 2020 used to have more power. It had an 83 horsepower Cummins before, right? What changes were made on the from the 2020 to the JT20, and how did that power difference affect the newer model?
So when all of these tier things were happening back in 2012, I remember being up at the factory and hearing that they're taking 9 horsepower away from this drill, something around there, 10 horsepower. And I thought it was a huge mistake. It's what made the 2020 great. Everyone loved how much power it had. And in its class, it had the most power. You could sit in the seat and feel that power. And I remember talking with Kevin Smith up at Ditch Witch, and he was telling me, give it a chance. We've done some differences here. We've changed the hydraulics. We changed the electronics. This drill does not feel like, it's a little less powerful, but you're going to like it. I did not believe him. But when we started seeing these rigs come in and using them, officially, I think it was 2013, but the end of 2012 is when they actually came out. And when we started using them, we found out it's the best thing Ditch Witch ever did. It has helped that machine to where we are today. Taking those few horsepower away actually got rid of lots and lots of issues that we would find on these drills when they got 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 hours on them. Rack and pinion wear went way down. Frame problems went way down. The gearbox and the way the gearbox is designed and made, that horsepower was really just giving the problem, adding to the problems of the drill. It was wearing them out. So those little things that we may have not thought was an improvement was just all the difference in the world for that drill to be the drill it is today.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing that insight. Is there one thing that a customer buying a used JT20 should pay attention to? If you could say what that was, in your opinion, what would that be?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. The core of the machine, right, is what puts rod in the ground, and that's the gearbox, the frame of the gearbox, and the rack and pinion itself. It's what makes the drill work. The wear that get is a lot related to the guy that's sitting in the seat. Is he taking care of it? Is he keeping it tight? Is it allowed to wear? Is he really pushing on the machine too much? So as you buy these machines, that's the area of the machine, the core of the machine, that's going to put pipe in the ground and make you money. So I would focus on that. I would make sure, and it could be very, very expensive, very costly. If you're going to buy a 2020, you need to look at those areas. But it comes over into a JT20 depending on the customer that's sitting in the seat. So I think that stuff's important to look at.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you sharing that insight with us. And now I'm here with Canon Stahl, also one of the original owners of MTI equipment. Canon started at MTI back in 1995, and so Canon's experience and insights are equal to Shawn's. Canon's directed the repair of and made sales of thousands of directional drills, and so I appreciate being able to sit down with him. So Canon, we've talked about the JT20 has been one of our top selling models for 10 years in a row. Why has the JT20 been so successful in the market, in your opinion?
I think there's a number of reasons. I would say for one is that size class is what everybody wants. There's so much more work for a 20,000 pound drill than any other size. That's why 20,000 pound drills are number one seller and the manufacturer's number one sellers. I would also say that during the time period when the JT20 came out, 04, it was a 2020, I should say, back then, the other manufacturers were struggling to find a really good, solid 20,000 pound drill, where Ditch Witch came out with one that actually worked and did well. So those people that started with a 2020 stuck with it to the JT20 and to the variations that came later on.
So what's changed about the JT20 over the years, or Ditch Witch's 20,000 pound class model entry?
Yeah, well, the 2020 had an 83 horsepower Cummins engine that was kind of not the greatest engine. We would rebuild them pretty much right away. It seemed like they had blow-by issues to where a lot of customers would actually put a recirculating pump back to put the oil that's in the blow-by back into the engine. So that's how, it just wasn't a good engine compared to the Deutz that they came out with the JT20, which is a common engine that's used in many other equipment, including some of the Vermeer drills as well. When the JT20 came out, they also redid all the hydraulics. So it looks like the same machine. The frame was stronger, and the hydraulics being performing at a higher level didn't require as much horsepower. So they went down to a 74 horse Deutz, and now they were able to get a quieter machine that still had the same power.
From the feedback that you've got from customers, what features do they like most?
Yeah, there's a few things that they have that some of the other models or other manufacturers don't. The open vices that you can actually see your rod joint to break loose, where you can sit at the operator's seat and it's pointed towards you. That's a nice feature that customers really liked about a Ditch Witch. Also, the water pump being a FMC triplex put out a lot more GPM than a vertical pump like some of the other ones have. So guys who care about flow, GPM downhole, especially in places where it's sandy like Florida, they really want a bigger mud pump for that reason. Having a double-sided rack and pinion has some benefits to it as well. So there's quite a few things that have made the JT20 kind of stand out, and that's why it's our number one seller for so many years.
So the JT20 has had a few iterations over the years. We've seen a few different models come out. The JT20 XP we've sold several of, and every once in a while we see a JT20B come through. What's different about those models, and is there anything that our customer would particularly like or not like about those rigs?
Yeah, so a JT20 XP, we don't sell a ton of them, but it's because Ditch Witch didn't sell a lot of them. And the reason behind that machine is they wanted to make the JT20 be able to be a stronger machine. At the time, Vermeer had their 2330 come out, and that was a way to make the JT20 stronger by having a separate power pack engine power source and mud pump that was external of the drill. So it didn't steal any of the horsepower from the drill, so the drill could have more hydraulic power. So that's the kind of the reason behind it. It has some challenges because you don't have a mud pump on your rig. If you want to go do a short shot, you need that trailer close to you so that you can plug in your hose from it. And also the Bluetooth connectivity was trialsome for a lot of people. We've had a lot of issues with that, and so have customers. So that was one that didn't really do as well as Ditch Witch hoped, and that's why we don't sell a ton of them. The 20B is actually just an updated model of the JT20. They don't advertise it as a B anymore. It's just a JT20, but it's just got the latest software, the latest hydraulic upgrades that they put on it.
What are situations then that a customer would want a JT20 XP?
There's probably two. One is the price point is quite a bit cheaper. So you can end up buying the drill package with a trailer and the mud system for the same price, if not less, than just a regular JT20. But then the other one is you can do longer shots because you're not stealing any horsepower from the drill because the mud pump is on the trailer with its own power source. So you have more GPM and more PSI, so you can do longer shots because of that.
If there was one thing in your mind, if you were telling a customer who's looking at a JT20 that they should pay attention to as they're examining it, like what would it be?
There's quite a few. If I had to pick one, I would probably say because of the type of environment these machines are in, driving in and off of trailers, on the side of the road, on steep grades, the rod rack side is heavy. So machines can fall over pretty easy, no matter the model or manufacturer that you're using. So that would probably be the biggest thing that I'd be looking for, is to make sure it hadn't fallen on its side, because when you get into frame damage or you get into machines on its side running, now you've got engine problems, perhaps. Things can get really, really expensive. So that'd be the one, probably the biggest thing I'd say if I had to pick one.
Thank you. I'm sure our customers will appreciate that insight. I also had the opportunity to hop on a call with Seth Mattheson, product manager at Ditch Witch, and get their take on the JT20 and what they have coming next. We're here with Seth Mattheson from Ditch Witch. Seth, if you could start, what's your role and how long have you been at Ditch Witch?
I've been at Ditch Witch for 30 years. My role currently is in product management. So I manage a product line of Ditch Witch as well as American Augers, and I have 3 people that work for me. I started in product management in 2013. Before that, from 1995 to 2013, I was a sales rep, regional manager for Ditch Witch. So I was the liaison between the factory and our dealer organization. Before that, I actually was a directional drilling contractor for 6 years. So I've been kind of in the HDD business in some shape or form for 35 plus years. So glad to be here with you.
Well, thank you very much. It's exciting to be able to share the insights from such a knowledgeable person who's had, so many, has such deep roots in the HDD industry. That's cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Well, the first question I had for you, It's since we're talking about the JT20, Ditch Witch's 20,000 pound class entry into the HD model market. Looking back at the original JT2020, what was the most significant technological limitation or challenge that your team identified and subsequently overcame in the later iterations? And how did that adjustment change the machine's capabilities or market positioning?
So probably the biggest challenge through the life cycle, I mean, that's part of our role in product management, is the life cycle of a product, right? So during that time is when a lot of the EPA regulations came out. And if you remember, the 2020 was 84 horsepower, 83 horsepower, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
It was a Cummins engine. And so we had to make some decisions knowing that we were going to be in these tier 3, tier 4, tier 4i, stage 5. And so the biggest challenge really was trying to put those updates in that product when you're making that engine change, and trying to put, a fresh look, right, on the product. And obviously there you have, information from the customers, voice of the customer. We know areas of improvement, whether it's, how long of life cycle it's going to have, or, in areas of weakness maybe that you need to improve. And so we try to do that. But that was our biggest challenge. It was going from a 2020 to the industry went to under 75 horsepower to stay away from DEF. So you had to lower the horsepower when you went to the first JT20, which was in 2013. But we had more efficient hydraulics, things like that were able to make that change more seamless. But we also learned some things too, because we tried to increase, carriage speed and rotational speed, and that's going to draw additional power. So we had to do some unique things to try to bridge that gap.
Nice. Very cool. Well, you mentioned some of it, but beyond just internal R&D, what external factors, perhaps emerging industry standards, like you kind of just mentioned, competitor innovation or other major shifts in customer needs, had a profound impact on the JT20's design over the years?
Besides the EPA challenges, which all OEMs had to deal with, and it was painful, just to be perfectly blunt, having to change a product every 3 years, it keeps you from actually doing some ground up products that you would want to do, right? So you had to do that, or you wouldn't have product to sell. But besides that, probably forged pipe became really prevalent, and the original 2020 design, that pipe loading system, wasn't tested or designed to have that heavier pipe on board. And as our customers wanted to have a little stiffer pipe, and they wanted to have a forged style, everybody has a different preference, right? We still offer 3-piece pipe and sell more of it than we do forged, but everybody likes something a little bit different. So we had to make some changes to the pipe loading system for durability and life. So that was one of the changes, of just the gravitation of customers to a different style of pipe that wasn't in the initial scope of the product.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't remember the spec on that. How much heavier is that forged pipe than the line pipe?
Off the top of my head, it's around 10 pounds, I think. It may not be that much, but it's enough that we had to make some changes to the lift arms and to the shuttle PSI and all those things.
Yeah, that's a really interesting change that I hadn't even thought about.
Right.
Thank you very much. So as the JT20 evolved, were there any unexpected benefits that emerged from a design change that wasn't initially intended for that purpose, or the opposite? Were there unforeseen challenges that came up from a change that required significant re-engineering down the line?
Part of what I just said covers a little bit of that, but I think the one thing I could kind of talk to is, when we originally designed the 2020, we had a risk factor of using a single-sided rack drive on the carriage and thrust frame, and so we went to a dual, and that really pushed us to having the style of pipe loading system that we have on the 20 to try to keep the width as narrow as possible. Now, I think you guys have probably seen this, though. Having that dual-sided rack, it lasts a long time. So there's benefits to that.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
the negative was that we, had the pipe box, the pipe box has to slide side to side. So it was a good pipe loading system, but there's also some maintenance that goes along with that. There's some baggage, right? But that was one thing that, now we have almost all single-sided racks on 30,000 pound and below machines. So, that's a pretty much an industry standard, and they still have good durability and good life. It's just we kind of learned over time that, okay, we don't have to have a dual-sided rack on a mini HCD unit. So maxi, larger rigs, you really need to have them, but on the smaller ones, it's okay.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In your scope of work, what's been the most important thing that the JT20 has taught you guys about building drills? And how do you think those lessons have helped you make newer models even better?
So, the one thing I'll kind of roll this into kind of a manufacturing conversation too is that 20,000 pound class is the largest class in the market, bar none. It's the fiber push. Everybody wants their phone. They want bandwidth. They want AI, and that means fiber optics, right? And bandwidth. And so it really made us go to, okay, if you're going to make hundreds and hundreds of this style machine, you need to, get a, we call it a VAE or manufacturing engineer, ME involved, and we streamlined. That was the first product that we spent a whole lot of effort and time. They call it a Kaizen is what they call it in the manufacturing world, but I don't know what that means, but it's basically to take that line and make it as efficient as possible, right? And so they did the same activities on that we did some of our SK units, which we're making thousands of. So it was that's one thing we kind of learned we needed to do. You just can't do it the old way of just making a drill. You've got to really pay attention and have a full thought process on your manufacturing side.
Yeah, very nice. So we know the JT21 is coming out soon and going to be replacing the JT20. What are some of the exciting things that you guys have implemented from what you learned from those previous 20,000 pound class models that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I think a couple of the things that are really highlighted on the 21 is the direct drive on the rotary, right? So you're getting rid of a gearbox, you have less components, less parts, less weight, all those things, all benefits. And that was something we really tested hard. They were using reamers out in the test field that I wouldn't have my crew run on that size machine in soils that they shouldn't, but they really wanted to put that to the test. So that gives you like 40% more down on horsepower. So it gives you the ability to be able to maintain speed with torque. Where if you had an older system, you wouldn't have that amount of speed at that torque. So that's really improved the productivity. I truly think it can drill pilot bore with about any machine in that class, for sure. I think another thing is speed. So you get a 270 RPM capability, 2-speed direct drive rotary. So you can, if you're in clay, you can get a fly cutter on there, a beaver tail, and chop everything up. But if you're in harder ground, you put it in low, and you're able to get the maximum torque out of it. So that's a big deal. Carriage speed has also improved quite a bit. I always run this with a little bit of a cycle time. Taking rods on, taking rods off. But theoretically, I mean, just on the real world, you're not going to be pulling back at 230 feet per minute when you're pulling a pipe in the ground, because your reel trailer will just start spinning, right?
Right.
But it does give you more speed for cycle time when you're taking pipes on and pipe off. Stability, we've went to more of a horizontal pipe loading system versus the JT20 style. So we've lowered our CG, improved stability. We are 4 inches wider, but that gives us more stability. And there's a whole lot of other little things. VAM is a virtual assisted makeup, so you don't have a float on the carriage.
Okay.
It actually, when you go to rotate, it's going in at the right rate to be able to thread up with that pipe.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we have that on the 120 as well. And so we've been able to use that technology down on the 21 as well. So a lot of JT24 components, so a lot of reliable components that we know have been out there for a while. So we've used some of that when it made sense. We're using the same mud pump that we had before. It's been a very reliable FMC mud pump for us. So you can get 35 GPM out of that. And I guess the other thing is the engine. It's the same engine that we have on the predecessor. So we have a lot of history with that Deutz engine and a lot of good luck. So that's it. I mean, I could go probably talk about it for an hour, but that's kind of all the technology that we have on our new platform, and our telematics is on that platform, like we have on the 32, the 40, and the 120. So we have that ability as well. So we're real excited. We've been shipping for quite a few months now, and I've been able to actually go out in the field and see some of them in person. So it's been good to get that feedback from customers. So we're excited about it.
Yeah. What are the customers saying about it?
They're saying it's that they can feel the power. I'm trying not to lead it whenever I ask them. They can feel the power. And a lot of them are obviously working on fiber jobs, but there's a lot of them that I saw that are electrical work, gas work. There's just there's a lot of work out in the marketplace today. Easy to run because you have multi-mode joysticks. So whether you're used to a competitive unit or a Ditch Witch unit, you can switch on the fly. So the operator station on the 21 is the same as the 32, as the 40, as the 120, and the 24. So going from one unit to the other just reduces the amount of training that you need.
Yeah, I think that's so smart.
Sure.
Yeah. In your role, when you got the design brief for the JT21, was there anything on there that you knew was maybe going to be like your biggest challenge to overcome?
Right.
And that you were able to meet, and how did that go?
I think the two things that we had as far as the highest risk that we really wanted to pay attention to was VAM. We'd already done it on the 120 and it worked well, but going down to a smaller thread, we just didn't know how, and it's actually done very well. So we're really excited about that. And then I talked about the direct drive. Direct drive is the first direct drive rotary that we have on a machine, and so there's always risk when it's new technology, right? But again, that's the reason they were pulling that huge reamer and doing all these things out in the test field to get the hours on it where we had confidence in that system. So those are probably the two that we had the most eyes on and paying attention to, because I mean we've been obviously building drills for a while. So the other stuff was just you're used to it. Again, we use a lot of stuff from the 24 platform that made sense. So those are the two that I think we had the most eyes on, that we were paying attention to, and thank goodness none of them had hiccups. Both of them worked really well out in the test field.
That's awesome. Well, I know a couple of us here have seen them in person, but the rest of us are looking forward to an opportunity to be able to sit on it and test it out. As I mentioned at the outset of the video, there are 4 things that you're going to want to look for if you're shopping for a JT20. They are evidence that the machine has been on its side, looking for an overly worn rack, looking at the electrical harnesses, and inspecting the boom pivot point. To get a little bit more in-depth insight into exactly what to look for, we're going to talk to Tim Chochos, one of our head mechanics.
So on the JT20, one of the things, if you're shopping for one, you want to stand behind the drill and look at the pipe rack. If the pipe rack looks like it's leaning in toward the engine compartment, that's a good sign it was laying on its side. It won't be square. If the drill's sitting on flat ground, it'll be leaning in toward the engine compartment. Another area is the hose track. We'll be rubbing the inner panels because the whole boom is leaning inside.
So what are customers going to want to be checking for?
So when you're looking at a JT20, you want to move the carriage forward a little bit. You'll notice that the first 4 teeth in the rack have never been touched. So you want to compare them to the ones that the pinion's been riding on. If the rack's wore down, these teeth are going to be sharper and shallower than the ones in the back. That'll actually stand out. And then it's gonna, and the same thing too on the back of the carriage. If you look in the back where the roller tabs are, it's actually wore into them deeper. So a 32nd of an inch is normal. Anything further than that is not. So that's either the pinions are wore out, or the racks wore out, or the bearings that hold the pinion are wore out. So what happens is the carriage moves back and forth as it goes down the rack.
Makes sense. So on this machine, I see a little bit of rack we're right in there. What are you guys going to do to fix that?
You check the pinions. We'll pull the carriage off the machine, check the pinions, check their bearings. There's a set of bearings, upper and lower. A lot of times they're going to get rusty on the top side, so the pinion sits at an angle. Once we fix that, and then sometimes we'll build up the tab that's inside so that you can tell that it's new again. And then you can see the wear, you can actually tell the wear again, what happens. So we always build that back up to where it was at the factory.
Okay, gotcha.
So you can see it right inside this pipe box panel. So if you look right in here along this right here, you'll see that that's a factory piece. So it's all straight and factory welds on the boom. Right in the rear, right here, there's a pivot point right here where the pin is. So when these drills get laid over or there's something wrong with the boom, they end up cutting that pin out and re-welding it. So it's not gonna be a flat piece of metal anymore and a factory piece. It's gonna be something that's welded on top of it. They can't put it back together unless you take this out and redo it. Most people don't redo them because the cost is not effective. It's not cost effective because it costs upwards of sometimes $22,000 to $25,000, $30,000 to take the boom off and redo all that, which we do that here.
That is the cost of having to replace, if there was excessive rack wear, if the rack was completely worn out on one of these machines, because it's not a bolt-on rack, right?
Exactly, it's a weld-on rack.
Okay, yeah.
So unless you have a shop that's set up to do it, you cannot make it straight. It's impossible. So you basically have to change the whole rack, which is upwards of $30,000.
Yeah.
So, and then it's time and labor from there. So it's just the part that you need costs that much.
Yeah. So one of the other things you were telling me about, Tim, is checking wiring harnesses is super important. What are customers going to want to be looking for?
So this drill is a prime example of one that somebody's already tried to fix. So you'll notice it doesn't have factory connectors on it. All the connectors to the fuel injector are actually lost their top. So all the locks are broken. It should look like this one right here, with the lock still on it, and the wiring tank, this one here, the lock is broke. Somebody's butt spliced the injector wires together. If they're not on the right post, they won't work right. Somebody actually took and put their own wiring for the preheat coil. This actually has a nice plug-in that goes from the factory. And then the harness, the first thing you look for too is this harness rubbing the top of the valve cover. It rubs through the wiring harness and shorts out the harness. The engine won't run. It'll actually have fuel rail codes, metering valve codes, because once that shorts out on the top like that, it throws it off. It will not run. Basically, this came from the factory with it tied up off of the valve cover. That strap is broke, which here at MPI we replace all these. We have the connectors, put new connectors on, new terminal ends. We redo the wiring. If the wiring is too bad, we will get that piece of the harness and replace it. We won't let it go like that. I actually do have all these connectors for this too to make it back to OEM spec.
Okay.
The JT20, that's the only place that has a wiring issue, and then the only other place is here to make sure that the connectors are twisted on. They do have a habit of this coming undone, twisted off. Just make sure that so a good rule is just to make sure that it's tight. If it felt loose, like when you went to grab it and it tightened up, then it was already loose. So you just want to take it off, look, make sure it's not corroded inside, put it back on. Most of the time, that's all that takes care of that. So,
gotcha.
This is its main area right here.
So if these things are bad, what is a customer looking at to have to replace this properly, cost-wise?
Most customers don't have access to the terminals.
Okay.
But it's labor intensive. It'll take you 2-3 hours to actually fix these back where they're supposed to be.
Right.
Put new terminals on, new wires. So it can be costly. If you can't do it yourself, then labor and time is what it's going to cost.
Right, yeah.
And then if the motor is already started to show a metering valve code, that turns into a whole nother problem. Because if the metering valve code comes up more than 50 times during the cycle of the drill, It's going to shut the drill totally down, and you have to get a Dutch dealer to come out and reset all that.
Wow. Okay.
And that's upwards of a couple thousand, $2,000-3,000.
Wow. So yeah,
depending on where they're at.
It's definitely worth it to have
Yes.
somebody like you
Yes.
take a look at it. Thank you very much, Tim. We really appreciate all that helpful information. That's going to be really helpful if you are shopping for a JT20. Keeping in mind, looking for evidence that the machine was on its side, looking for rack wear, checking wiring harnesses, also checking the pin, can really be helpful and save you a lot of time and money to make sure that you're getting a good drill. These are all things that we check here at MTI along with a list of 80
forget
other
about what I
things.
was saying there. I was definitely starting to ramble.
From the first 2020s to today's JT20, this has proven to be one of the most reliable rigs on the market. And that's why year after year, drillers like you continue to trust it on their job site. We're looking forward to seeing if the JT21 continues that legacy. But this isn't the only story. The JT20 isn't the best option in every situation. And so we have a ton more to share. So please like and subscribe and let us know in the comments what machine you want us to cover next. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. In the meantime, if you're interested in our process here at MTI, watch this video here.